detectives, and welcome to video 4 of Charlie Cook's favourite book, and we're just going to have a look through these worksheets and have a look at the sort of answers I hope that you were going to put for me. So our word of the week was indignant, and I put the meaning here. It's an adjective and it's feeling or showing anger when something is unfair. And a synonym, I've written the word livid, and antonym, I've written calm. And then a sentence, I've put, my son was indignant with me when I said he hadn't done enough homework. That happens a lot in our house. We have discussions over how much work should be done. I wonder if it's the same where you live. Okay, let's have a look at this contractions exercise then. So the first one was I'm, and it should be I am. That's the example, sorry. And then in the first sentence, we've got she's. Well, that actually is she is. So she's in my bed. She is in my bed. And what's more, that is what is more, she's got my favourite book. Now this is she's and that's she's, but they're actually different contractions. So this is she's in my bed. She is in my bed. But this one is she has my favourite book. So that's she has instead of she is there. And then in this sentence, we've got he'd. As he read aloud a joke he'd found, that's his he had found. And then sentence 3 was, look mum, look mum, what I've just seen. That's what I have just seen. Hush, I'm trying to read my favourite magazine. That was an easy one. I am trying to read my favourite magazine. And then there were 2 in this sentence here. Who's had our porridge and who's been sitting on our chairs? Both of those are who has. Okay, so I hope you got those. Now the ellipses and the 3 dots. So I hope you understood that. It is a little bit of a tricky one. We don't use ellipses all the time in punctuation. It's kind of one of the last ones that you learn. But when you've learned how to use them properly, they do make your writing look much more professional. And they are a good way to indicate to your reader some pause or effect or a trailing off of your thoughts. So let's have a look. What's your name? That was a question, so I ended that one with a question mark. There's a car coming, watch out. Oh, that's like a dramatic sentence of an exclamation, so we needed an exclamation mark there. I like to eat chocolate. Now that's just a pretty plain sentence actually. There's no question there and there's no exclamation, so I've just put a full stop on that one. Can you please pass me that pen? Now again, that's a question, so I've got a question mark. I thought I knew where we were going. However, I've put ... there because that doesn't sound like the end of the sentence to me. That sounds like the sentence or the thought has trailed off and we've paused a little bit for dramatic effect there. So I put the ... I live in a white house with a red door. Again, nothing special about that sentence to warrant a full a question mark or an exclamation mark or even a ... So just a normal full stop at the end of there. It was all going well until, oh, well, that's definitely left us on a bit of a cliffhanger. So we need a ... there. And this is a good example because this is when we would, in real life, we often really do a big pause here if we're announcing the winner. So we might be talking about the winner of the bees or the awards at the end of school. We'll say the winner, and the winner is ... And then we might have the answer there. So I hope you've got something along those lines there. It's a little bit subjective using the ... So it doesn't always have to be used. You know, there are times when somebody might think it's you can use it and somebody might not. It's not always a right and wrong answer. But it's just, I just want you to get thinking and start noticing them when you're reading your own stories, just so you can sort of get a bit more familiar with how they're used in our general conversations, how you can, think if I was writing that down, I would have put a ... there, and how they're just used in literature as well. So the sentence that I have written, slowly we crept into the dark cave, ... So that's a sort of a mysterious, we haven't really revealed everything yet. There's going to be a little bit of a cliffhanger there, so I've used the ... Okay. So which of these books were your favourite? Do you know, I have a really hard time to choose which one was my favourite, but I'm looking forward to seeing which was yours. I think The Ugly Five is just so sweet because it's just such a lovely, happy story about 5 friends and how they're great parents. So I think that's actually a really lovely story, but it's so hard to choose because they're all lovely. So I'm looking forward to reading your stories there. Now, this compare and contrast, I know this was very tricky to explain, but once you've got your head around that Venn diagram, I think the ideas are the things that I'm mostly looking forward to seeing what you've come up with. So even if you haven't got this right, as long as you're starting to think in terms of comparing these stories and thinking what makes them similar and what makes them different, even on just a very basic level, then that's a great skill that we need to work on even more as we go through our school career, especially when we're in secondary school and we're looking at English literature. So I've just put a few things down here, and I hope you've got some different things than I've put, but I'll run through some of the things I've put. But yeah, just to get your brains ticking along and thinking about how these books are similar and how they're different. For the Ugly Five, that was what I said was book A. Sorry, I couldn't work out a better way to label this on here. I do apologise. So I've just written A here. That's the only book that we know was set in Africa. So I've just put that one there. You could have also said it's the only book that was set in the savannah, the only book that mentioned shadows, or the only book that mentioned people's appearances, really. Actually, I suppose Monkey Puzzle did a bit, but you could have had your own ideas there. So I'm interested to see what you mentioned there. Then how that compares with a Monkey Puzzle, which was book B. Well, both books have parents and children, and they look at the relationships between parents and children, and they both look at friendships. And what you could have written in this intersection here, they both look at wild animals. We do have animals in A Squash and a Squeeze, but they're like farmyard animals. So these are actually looking at wild animals, so you could have put that one in there as well. Now, how does the Ugly Five and A Squash and a Squeeze, what's the intersection there? What anything that links those books but doesn't link a Monkey Puzzle? Well, as I said before, both of those stories kind of have a moral or a message. Not quite so obvious what that is in a Monkey Puzzle. Obviously, he's trying to find his mum, but there isn't really a message there. The Ugly Five, it's very clear to say that looks are not important. Don't judge somebody on what they look like. They can be an absolutely wonderful person, even if they have got very strange features and baggy knees and skinny legs or whatever. So that's definitely got a moral to the story. And A Squash and a Squeeze, also I feel that one has got a lovely moral to say, be grateful for the things you have, because actually one day you might look back and think, what was I complaining about? That life was great at the time. So it's really making you think about being grateful for what you've got at the moment. So they both have a message there. Now, if we look at the Squash and a Squeeze and a Monkey Puzzle, well, I'd say both of those have overcome a problem. And you can even tell that from the front cover, as we said before, they both look like there's a problem going on there. So both of those stories have a problem in which is overcome by the main character in the story. So the monkey eventually finds his mum, and the lady in the house is no longer thinking her house is too small. She thinks it's just right. So let's have a look. What have we not covered? So the Squash and the Squeeze, that was the only book that included any human beings. We had the wise old man and the old lady. And it's the only book where the animals are actually animals as we know them, because they don't talk. They just come in and do crazy things. But in the other two stories, the animals are like people. They have speaking roles and they're characters in the story. Not quite so much in A Squash and a Squeeze. So the animals in that don't talk. And then Monkey Puzzle, I say that's the only book that's set in a jungle. It's a little bit different to the others because I think the others, there's more of a message in the other stories. This one is just a little monkey looking for his mum, which, he overcomes. So see what else you could have written there. And then the intersection, what do they all have in common? Well, obviously, apart from being written by Julia Donaldson and Axel Scheffler, they all have animals in, they all rhyme. You might have said they're all quite fun stories. Maybe you said they all look at different emotions. We've had, the monkey was lost, the Ugly Five are happy, the lady in A Squash and a Squeeze was discontented but then happy at the end. So you could say they all discuss emotions as well. So I'm really hoping that you've got some interesting ideas there, but don't worry too much about these circles. They're much, much easier to explain when we're in a classroom situation, because one of the things we've done is used hula hoops, and then you can really see how they all interact. But it'd be good if you could start to think how all these different stories sort of compare and contrast to one another. Now, I've just put some crazy titles on here. I've put Charlie Cook's Cookbook, Gardening for beginners. I've been doing a lot of gardening lately, so I put that one there. Homeschool tales. That's about people who are working from home and doing their homeschooling and the tales that they tell afterwards. The Big Book of Bad Jokes. Oh, I'm sure I've got lots of them in there. The HKLA Book of Games. Oh, I think that's a book that we can compile with all the teachers and all the students and see what games we could come up with. And of course, I've written a book called Story Detectives there. And then for our characters, I have got the aliens are saying, I wonder what's going on with those, where he's going with those books. And the boy is saying, or Charlie Cook is saying, I love reading. I think the aliens are following me. So I'm looking forward to what you've come up with there. And then Charlie Cook, the word search, we have got thief going across horizontally. And was that the only one that went horizontally? Maybe it is. Going down, we have pirate, spaceman, indignant, favourite, dragon, and ghost. And then diagonally we had and bear, sorry. And then diagonally we had library and book. So I think that was it for this one. Okay, so next week we have a fun story. And we're going to look a little bit more at rhyming. So I hope this, if you have any questions about these at all, I say just get in touch with me. I hope this was explained okay for you about the Venn diagram. Do let me know if you have any questions. Okay, thank you. Bye.